Everybody, welcome back to the Speed Shop. So we're going on to part 3 of the diagnostics and troubleshooting of the 2000 Camaro. So let's go ahead and get into it. Finally going to the junkyard so we can see about finding the harness that we need for the Camaro. And maybe some other things too. And as you see, it's kind of a storage unit now for the parts for the truck. But that's fine. We'll get back to that. I might stop by Hobby Lobby today too to pick up some material to redo the headliner as well. So a couple videos coming up here because of that. So let's get into the Camaro again. So let's pack up and get our tools ready for the junkyard. What we need is a bag. I got a couple extras from Snap-on kits that I bought in the past. So some of the things we definitely need are small, I gotta remember what size they are. Let's get the coil pack and find out. I believe the harness is 7 millimeter, but I need to know what these coils are. I think it's a small one. Smaller than that. Let's go with a 5.5. That sounds right. There it is. So it's 5.5 for the coil packs. So we need that. And amongst other things, so I'll get everything up and then we'll hit the road. All right, so we got the tools all loaded up. Got my good old handy dandy Craftsman kit that I've had for 20 years. So let's head out. Go to the junkyard. All right, so our junkyard run yielded a complete ignition module with coils, and they already charged me 25 bucks. But who knows if it's good or not. I got an extra harness too, just in case. So I'm gonna pull this apart because it kind of, I think I saw some moisture, but I might have been seeing things. So I'm gonna pull it apart, check it, make sure it's not like burn up or anything. But then we'll probably try that one in the car. I also got material for that headliner so I can do the truck at some point, but that's later. That'll be a different video. But we gotta get back on this Camaro and start to see if we can figure out what's wrong with it. All right, so one of the things I don't have yet is some of the thermal paste that I need to put in between here and there. And I gotta clean this all up and everything, but hopefully this will work. If not, hopefully this one will work. But first things first, I'm going to put one of these plugs onto the harness over there. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and install this new fuel pressure regulator. So that way that part's done and we can put the fuel rails back on. So let's do that. Okay, so we're going to install this fuel rail next. We've already got the new fuel pressure regulator installed. I did a short video on that using the petroleum jelly around the O-ring. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for each one of the injectors. So it slides into the intake nicely. So the reason I used petroleum jelly, if you didn't see the short, was because it's a petroleum-based product and it dissolves with fuel and oil. So that's what I like to use to lubricate my O-rings. So we're gonna move over here and get this thing installed. Shop's getting a little tight these days with all the stuff going on in here. Pop those down in. And pop those down in. Looks like one of the studs came all the way out. All right, just need 10 millimeter. Helps to go the right direction. go. Fuel rail is installed with the new pressure regulator. Alright, so it's time to start cutting and soldering this connector, because I got the new one over here. And well, not new, you know what I'm saying. But we're going to cut and solder these in here, and hopefully this one works better than this one. It should, because that pin is burnt and this one is not. So let's get into it. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate a little more in depth on how to solder this stuff. And so the first thing I did was I stripped the wire back. You can see how it's stripped back. And the next most important thing, probably than anything, is just like doing tube nuts on some brake lines or fuel lines. You want to put your heat shrink on there first. So that way you're not cutting it back off later on in order to seal it back up or cover it back up. So let's get into, I'm going to put you up on the stand. We'll get more into how I'm going to solder this. Okay, so some of the things you have for soldering, get this little wet sponge right here. And just to help you, helps you to clean off your soldering iron. Just kind of get some of the grime off there. I also have this little thing here too, which you can shove down in there. It's kind of like a Brillo pad to help clean it. So first thing we want to do is set the wires up. And you want to use some flux compound on there, some paste. You put it on the wire. Just get a little bit on there just so you have something. It basically helps, it's kind of a cleaner type of thing. It also helps it to heat up and join. So I'm going to clamp one side into here. And there's a lot of different ways you can actually attach these. And so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to I'm going to push them together and kind of weave them together. You can make loops and loop them in there that way. That makes a bigger connection. This is the best way in my opinion. I can't talk because I bit my tongue this morning. But as far as keeping it small for areas where there's going to be a lot of wires. So I'm just going to take it, stick it in there, and I'm going to attach it to this side here. I'm just going to bring them together in the middle. Of course, the last one I'm doing is the one that's going to give me the most hassle. Okay, so you bring it together like that. See if you can bring it in. I'll probably zoom in for you later. And I just go in, I kind of pinch the wires on the ends just a little bit to bring them back around. And you get the paste all over you. So next thing you want to do is take, so this is actually kind of something new I've never had before, is a tinning compound. You stick your soldering iron in there and actually put some tinning on there. And tinning is basically putting solder. It's the same thing as taking your solder and just adding some to the end of your solder iron like that. And basically that's a way of getting started with the solder on your joint. You can also tin your wires. I'm not going to do that this time because it's thin enough, small enough wire that it doesn't take very long for it to melt in. And then you just go in, you want to heat from the bottom and put the solder in from the top. Try not to breathe this stuff in either. It's not good for you. You just fill the wire with the solder. You can take your soldering iron and kind of smooth it out a little bit. Just don't want to pull it apart, but so that's all there really is to it. Like I said, you heat it from the bottom, put the solder in from the top, wait for it to cool down a little bit. Then you want to test it and make sure you got a good connection. So you disconnect it and you just kind of yank on it a little bit. I yank on it with pretty good force to make sure. So that's all there really is to it. And then you put your heat shrink on it, shrink it up. And you're done. And that is the last wire for this ignition module connector. So now you can tape it back up and put it back in the car and start testing. So So that's where we're at now. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is go through this harness again and check the pinouts on this, make sure they all got good continuity. And I'm gonna show you an example of what I'm talking about. So the one that we replaced, the main one we were replacing was this pink wire. Let me try to focus in on it. It's this pink wire right here. So I'm gonna put a probe in that one. All right, so I know for a fact we're going from this pink wire, which is your main power, into the ignition coil, or the ignition module. And over on this side, see this wire right here that's been repaired? That's the wire going to the car. So that goes across to here and it should beep. So here we got 0 resistance. And if you really want to check resistance, we put it on the ohm meter. Do the same thing. You'll see we got 0.6 ohms. So good continuity on the main circuit that we're repairing. So we're good on that. So I'm going to go through and check all the rest of them, because some of these go to like the cam sensor, crank sensor, to the computer harness. So I'm going to check all those, make sure all those wires that we just repaired or replaced are still good. All right, so I went through, I tested every pin there, and it all has continuity where it's supposed to. And what I used was this sheet right here that I got off of, I can't remember what it's called. I'll have to get back to you on that one, but it's an app you can get, and it's pretty cool, but it's going back to different prints. It's kind of hard, you have to watch an ad, but there's ways around it. But yeah, this allowed me to trace all the wires. These are all the wires out of that ignition module connector. So I was able to trace them all back and test the continuity on all of them. So it worked out really well, and they're all good. So now we can put the harness back in the car and start testing stuff on the car. All right, so we've got all the sensors back in, the hub back on, the crank pulley back on. So now it is time to put the wire harness back on. So we're gonna throw that back in. High speed, of course. So let's get to it. Well, that was kind of a pain in the ass. The wires that go down to the crank sensor have to run behind this tube right here. I don't know if that's the outlet or inlet tube for the water pump. And it goes behind there and down around all these pulleys. It's just a big pain in the butt. So got that done already. So I got to do the wires underneath the car. Most important thing, get this ground put back on there on the back of the head. And yeah, then get everything else put back on and we can start testing. All right, so we're gonna try to start it. Make sure she's out of gear. I got the clutch pass or back. So we got the fuel pressure. Well, we did something right because it's running. All right, so it's the day after we got her to fire up. Let's go ahead and fire up again just to hear her roar again. Oh yeah. So I went to town today to get a new air filter, a new battery, new belt, do an oil change on it. I'm gonna wait to do the belt, the oil change, because I've also got a new AC compressor that's on the way. And so I'm gonna put the old belt back on. And tomorrow when the AC compressor comes in, because this one's bad, and my son just replaced it, but it's got a 2-year warranty on it, so I can take it back in and replace it. So that's what I'm gonna do. So get rid of that. I just noticed that wire sitting there on there. What is that for? Is that power steering? No, it's battery cable. Okay, so I gotta check that, make sure it doesn't rub. But let's get the belt back on it, get the air intake on it, get it dropped down. Let's take it for a test drive, make sure everything's working. And then we'll go from there. All right, we got the belt put back on. Let's go ahead and fire it up because I want to make sure that that AC compressor isn't making too much noise. Because I remember when my son first bought it, it was screeching when it was off. But when you engaged it, it was fine. So let's see what happens when we fire it up now. All right, so we're good on that. It's spinning fine. Making a little bit of noise, but not too bad. I can live with that. All right, so the last thing to test out is a test drive. So let's see if it'll start. We're having issues with the starter relay. All right, we're good there. See, check engines, says oil change. Yeah, we're due for that. We got one scheduled here. Fuel oil pressure is good. Charging, full tank of gas. So let's see what she can do. Out of the way, dummy. Definitely don't like the sound of V6 exhaust wide open like that, but she's working. All right, so we're coming back to the house. Everything's running good. ABS in up because I got that bad wire. Staying running. Yes, the dash is really bad, but that's typical of these cars. And the duck, of course, is going to get in the way. All right, so I say it's a successful, good test drive. Or successful first test drive. Everything's working right. Oil pressure is good. Temperature started coming up. It's charging. Power steering, everything's working. The AC is not making noise, but I know it's not working. And it was making noise when we first got it, so I don't know. I'm gonna exchange that tomorrow. But yeah, I think we're good to go. I'm gonna start buttoning everything up, put the hood back on, rewire the clutch switch so that works normal. And this relay right here, it stops working every now and then. So I had to give it a little Navy reinforcement, basically, where you drop it and it comes back, gets stuck and just comes back. So it works, but yeah, I think that relay is starting to go out. But other than that, yeah, I'm happy with it. It's working. So we'll just see how long it lasts. And we'll go from there. All right, well, that'll do it for working on the Camaro, or getting the Camaro running. So I don't know. So the things we changed is I rewired that plug for the ignition module. I replaced one coil, all the spark plugs, and that's pretty much it. So I put a new air filter in it, but I wouldn't really consider that being an issue. But so yeah, everything's working. Not getting any codes yet. There will be a code for a what is it? The catalyst inefficiency, whatever. Because the cat's gutted, it got blown out before I even got the car. So it always has that second O2 is reading wrong, or reading high, I should say. So that's the problem with that. But other than that, it runs and drives, and I gotta get the AC running. Gotta fix the heater because it's been bypassed. I guess it started leaking one time on my son out in San Diego. And then from there on, we'll just drive it and see what it does. So on that note, if you like this video, go ahead and leave a like down there. And before I even get into that, again, I just want to say thank you for watching. If you made it this far, that's awesome. I really appreciate it. You know, I like doing these videos, and I like the people that watch them, and I like when you comment about them, whether it's good, bad, ugly, whatever. I don't care. You know, I just like to see what you think of my videos. So on that note, leave a comment down there and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. So as of right now, I think my numbers are 98% of the people watching my videos are not subscribed. So thank you to that other 2% of people, which is cool. But hey, if you're part of that 98%, go ahead and subscribe because it's free. So on that note, again, thank you for watching. And until next time, I will see y'all later.